Hi again, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought we'd do a workshop in how to build apps with AI, how we can use generative AI app builder tools to build any app that we can imagine. But before we dive into that, I thought I'd reflect back at some of the lessons I learned building Boltfolio.ai, which was an early version of sort of using AI and agentic orchestration to produce a high quality output based on a few user inputs and prompts. The goal of Boltfolio was to give users the ability to tap into a rich amount of data and apply quantitative finance tools and machine learning algorithms to refine that group of, in this case, stocks into the perfect portfolio for a person. Now, we built this in the previous generation. This was mostly during the ChatGPT 4 model era, which was prior to the reasoning models, whereby we could have multi-step, multi-turn loops through multiple function tool calls and combine massive amounts of data through an expanded context window. So within those constraints, I think we built something still pretty impressive, but it might have been just a bit early before our true vision could have been fully realized. Nevertheless, I'm very proud of the work that we've done, and I'd like to kind of walk through some of the thinking behind that here with you before we jump into how we can create an app pretty much agentically and with prompting and back and forth for you. You can build any kind of app that you can imagine is now essentially mostly pretty much possible using today's tools. Let's jump into Boltfolio.ai here just for a second. So you will commonly see the design motif or the user interface of having this sort of a chat input box. In this case, these are prompts. So ChatGPT has this, it's not a search box, but it's similar. And essentially what you do is you want to prompt the system with instructions and direction to producing an output. Because remember, these generative AI models need to start from something. They have billions and billions of parameters and billions of tokens, in some cases maybe trillion tokens. But to start that chain of thought, to start producing those lines of tokens, you need to provide that initial spark. So with Boltfolio, we wanted to start with generating portfolios of stocks or even searching for stocks. Now, if you come to Boltfolio, you'll be presented with a home page and a prompt input box, essentially. The thing that we did, and probably if I would go back and do something different, is we only gave you basic results from the homepage. If you wanted to get the best results, you needed to log in and create an account. And we did this because we thought, all the value was, we had so much more value that we could provide beyond just the homepage. We thought maybe if we gave you a sample or a taste in the homepage, it would encourage people to want to sign up. I think now that we've seen how quickly products like ChatGPT have grown without requiring login and sign up, probably I would have made a different decision. But back then we were very conservative in terms of tokens, the cost per token, and we didn't want to run through all of our credits so quickly with people just, spamming us, so to speak. But I think maybe in some cases, I think I've been maybe a little bit too cautious. And in fact, I think most people are very respectful users and they're not actually trying to take down your system. So I think I would have been much more generous and given people much more deeper access to the best tools. But we had to be conservative in some sense because we were limited in terms of our token credits, and we didn't want to go through it in a week or a month. We wanted it to last as long as possible. Thankfully, we've established great relationships with some of the hyperscalers like Google, Microsoft, Azure, and so forth. So we can afford to be more generous with our tokens, and also the cost per token has fallen dramatically. So I think it might be interesting to perhaps offer even more capabilities to users who are not ready yet to sign up and create a full account. That said, it's really easy to sign up. It just requires a simple login so that you can access your account and you can save your portfolios in the database, and you can have a unique user ID. And that's pretty much all we do. We just only save this information, nothing else, not a lot of personal information, just something to identify you. And then the idea is that if you saved your portfolio, you'd want to come back and check on it and rebalance it. But again, all of this was for an educational use case. So we weren't actually managing your real money, but we were giving you kind of hypothetical scenarios and scenario planning and showing you what modern portfolio theory is like. And then using your prompts and using kind of your ideas and your preferences and so forth, you could create interesting portfolios, but then you could test it against like how it performs against the indices. So when you come to Boltfolio, you will be presented with things like suggested prompts or starter prompts. Like, for example, create a portfolio of high-tech and healthcare stocks. What this will do is it will use pretty much just the default large language model. So it's not actually running through the latest data. It's not running through our specific tools. It's just pulling from its knowledge. And then based on identifying those products or those stocks, we're then showing what the price trend over time is. That's what it looks like on the front end. But if you were to actually take this into the logged in perspective, you would have a portfolio builder tool like this. Now, we're building this earlier than what the latest models provide today, which means that we didn't have all of the advanced capabilities, and probably we would have made some different decisions. But I think we still did a fairly decent job in some work that we can be proud of, and we were fortunate enough and excited to work with one of the largest universities here in Thailand, Bangkok University. And by working with the professors and the dean of the School of Finance and Economics, we were able to host a portfolio construction competition with the students. And the students we had hundreds of portfolios created, and the students were signing up and creating portfolios and competing to see who could produce the best returns after 1 month. And we didn't only reward the best returns. We also had other categories as well, and some, user voted categories and so forth. So there was lots of ways to judge someone's performance. But I think this is pretty cool that we have this leaderboard and that we have all of these students who can actually showcase their work, their portfolio. And because this is the finance and economics department college, the idea is that many of these students will go on to become, professional financial advisors or portfolio managers or accountants, financial analysts, in those sorts of fields. And we were hoping that this platform could be one of their early portfolio pieces. They could show their way of thinking, and they could talk through their decision-making process. So I thought this was a really, really cool exercise, and I'm very happy that we were able to collaborate with them on that. Let's go to the home just really quickly, homepage. Again, the product that we developed was really impressive for the time. Nowadays, I would do several things different. I mean, the state of the art has advanced quite significantly, but I think we still did a pretty good job. There are things we could improve in terms of performance, in terms of just overall website responsiveness and other things like that. But overall, I think this was a fantastic first step into learning how to apply generative AI into a professional domain, or a domain whereby there was a clear ROI. Because one of the biggest questions around a lot of the AI investment is, what's the ROI for doing all of this? And I thought the simplest way to answer that is to just literally show you how much money that you could hypothetically, potentially have made with AI if you were to actually apply these lessons into your real life, into your real accounts. So I thought that was one of the motivations. And then the other reason why we chose public equities, U.S. stocks in particular, was because the data is available. So we didn't have to create synthetic data. We didn't have to try to broker data deals with other companies. We could literally just use open available data, but run it through our machine learning and through our generative AI chatbot and some of our agentic workflows to help people create portfolios. So this is a more advanced kind of a project. This involves lots of different data sources, many features, a database, multiple integrations with Gen AI, and so on and so forth. So this is one example of what you could do with a generative AI mindset. So, like, for example, nowadays you will typically find a AI chatbot integrated, typically on the sidebar or on one side of an application, right? If you think about it, lots of companies today lots of startups today want to build the cursor for X or the bolt for Y, right? And so I think we were early to that. And the idea was that you could have different prompts, like, let's look at the top 10 US-based consumer sector companies ranked by their 3-year compound annual growth rate of net income. So which consumer companies have had the highest growth consistently over the last 3 years in terms of net income, right? To make that prompt happen, to retrieve the results of that prompt, what we are doing is we are providing these agents, these AI chatbots, access to unique data sources, and not unique in that we're the only ones that have it, but that we actually prepared this data and formatted it and instructed the model to access this data in such a way, and trained it on how to understand our database as well as how to interpret prompts. And what it returns to us is interesting. Now we haven't. This app has essentially been autonomously operating for many months now. We haven't really invested any development time into keeping this product up to date. So I'm not quite sure exactly how accurate this is, but we can check the work. So we'll take this result. It's showing me that these companies are some of the most profitable and best growing consumer companies over the last 3 years, and they include Bookings and Expedia, which is travel booking, Harley Davidson motorcycles, Ross Stores, sort of a discount retailer, Skechers, the shoes and clothing company, TGX, another discount retailer, Tesla, which happens to be a consumer discretionary, and then also Texas Roadhouse, Ulta Beauty, Urban Outfitters. So these are companies very much correlated with consumer spend. Now, year to date, this portfolio has underperformed the major indices, but we are asking for the last 3 years. So if we were to go back 3 years, and again, this data only starting from 2023, but asking for it to go back 3 years, These are some of the best performing. Now, it doesn't mean that these companies have outperformed the market or the benchmarks, but these are the companies that potentially have been the strongest growers in the form of net income, and that's this data here. Net income is essentially that's your profit after you deduct your expenses from your top line revenue. Won't go too far into that because I don't want to get too into the weeds of these of stock market analysis, but it's just to show you what it means to give it a prompt, have tools, and allow it to display what that output will look like within this context, within this domain. Now, if we go back to the prior to ChatGPT moment, I created this pitch for a new company, which would essentially take a prompt and produce an output. Now, this was again pre-ChatGPT, and what I proposed was a system whereby you would essentially give it your website or a prompt, and the system would then create an output and set everything up accordingly. And this was, in this case, the idea of creating a 3D game, which you would then publish to the web and you could interact with it, right? So it would have been a 3D representation of your website. So let's say you have a website, you could be selling something, you could have a website for your corporate website, it could be a educational website. This tool that I kind of propose would essentially take all of the content on that website, scrape it with your permission, classify it, label it, create some kind of a script that then could generate a 3D world. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It turns out that that's actually, it was prescient. That was a little bit ahead of its time. But nowadays, this whole concept of prompt to app or prompt to game is, and doing deep research in the form of crawling websites and extracting key features and other information, turns out that that's worth tens, possibly hundreds of billions of dollars. I applied to a couple of accelerators with this concept. I got a little bit shy about this idea. I pulled that application. I replaced it with something more basic, which was just developer tools to build apps faster using possibly new frameworks or new libraries, because my pain point has consistently been, as a tech entrepreneur for so many years, just that I'd love to build things faster, right? I'd love to just go from idea to product in a much shorter time and ensure high quality along the way. And again, I think it's just been the story of my life. Sometimes I've just been a little bit too early to the party in that sense, but that's fine. All right, now let's take this same concept, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at Bolt. So this is Bolt.new. It's one of my favorite code generation tools, and they've been one of the fastest growing startups and one of the, I think, most popular, most widely used code generation tools out there. The code generation, building apps faster using prompts and using AI, has been one of the best, or I would say like one of the use cases that have resonated the most with users. I think the other one has also been essentially web search through agents. Like, this is what we call deep research and so forth. So I think we were pretty much, we exactly nailed the future. I mean, we exactly, in some ways, predicted the future, or painted a picture of a vision of the future that people ended up building towards. And it's great because as a user, there's nothing better than, like, as a customer, as a user, than just putting it out there what you would like to see, and then having like the community, the ecosystem, rally around that if it's a good idea, and other users, and making it happen. So I'm extremely thankful for, and grateful for tools like ChatGPT and Bolt. I mean, both of these are, really revolutionary, game-changing tools that I think are absolutely fantastic. So now we can build apps with AI, and I want to now teach you how you can build your own app. To give you an example, let's say that we want to build an AI app store. Okay, so we want to build a website that actually shows a catalog of different AI applications. And I want to mock that up for right now. I will actually link all of my actual AI apps, which I've over the months and weeks and months, I've probably developed dozens of these, right? So eventually I'll actually be able to host a whole page full of all of the AI mini apps, micro pieces of software that I've built and so forth. But let's build like an e-commerce and app store, but for AI apps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Bolt.new. I've got an account, and it has tons of features here. But I think the thing that you want to do is maybe you want to start with a prompt. And the best way to start with a prompt is, you can maybe start with a ChatGPT conversation. Now, the cool thing about ChatGPT is it also doesn't require login to use. So if you just want to go to chat.com or chatgpt.com, you can jump right into ChatGPT and use it to help you, back and forth with an idea and come up with something cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT, and I've not tried this with the logged out version, so let's see what happens, but let's try. So help me craft a prompt for a code generation tool based on the following requirements. An AI app store which, let's say, showcases multiple apps. Okay, each app would have its own, we call it modal, which is like kind of a pop-up window where we could see additional information. So think of it like a Netflix but for apps. Additional information and details about that app. Each app should have an app icon in the form of a square object with rounded corners. It should be easy to navigate from app to app. Apps should have titles, descriptions, ratings, and any other details such as category, requirements, etc. The nice thing about it is you can give the Gen AI just a starting point, and it will help you fill in the details. So I'm gonna do this. What else should we have? Maybe we should be able to see screenshots of the app. There should be a preview mode or window where users could see the app in action in a preview mode, let's say. What else should we have? There might be some social elements where we could see what is trending, what is new, what is suggested for you. And we should use a modern style which works well on both desktop and mobile. This is called responsive. Essentially, that means that if you scale your window, your browser window, from a desktop view or onto a smartphone, the dimensions of the application's layout should adapt to that using math, using responsive layout techniques. So we'll start with this. Let's see what else can I add to that. Yeah, so we're basically, we can also add other inspirations. Let's be inspired by top companies such as Netflix, Spotify, Shopify, Airbnb maybe, and what other things? Maybe Coinbase, Robinhood. I'm just trying to think of like marketplaces, and yeah, content marketplaces, whether it's digital content, physical content, and app stores. Please craft this into a concise prompt with instructions. Do not suggest any technical architecture, libraries, or frameworks, right? I'll leave that to Bolt for now, but I just wanted to see what it comes up with. Now I'm doing this in a not using reasoning, okay? So that gives me quickly a response, right? So that's a great prompt to start with, right? And then it essentially just took what I did, but then it kind of formatted it nicely. I can try this again, right? I'll copy this prompt here just so I have it, but then I will, not sure if this will allow me to edit this. Let's try it one more time. I'll just take this. And then now I'll click on reason. Oh, cannot reason without logging in. Okay, no problem. So we'll go with this. I've got that prompt, and then I'll go to Bolt.new, and then I'll paste this prompt into this. Now, if you see this icon, it says enhance prompt. Oops, I think I copied the wrong. Yeah, I think I copied the wrong. Let's copy this. Now, okay. Now, Bolt does its own prompt enhancement. So if you were to enhance this prompt, it would, using Bolt's tools, it would take my input, but then it will add in some of those technical details and some of the tools that it has access to, some of the frameworks that it uses, some of the libraries that it uses. And then it's telling me to provide the tool in a modern design tool. I don't actually need it as a Figma design. I should say that, yeah, if I could expand this, I can't, but you basically, it does a pretty decent job. I'll just delete that part because the prompt is trying to do the design, but I want the full app. So now I go ahead and launch that into Bolt. Now, Bolt has a new feature. Previously, it pretty much used just one of the models, but I think now it actually integrated the thinking model. So with the thinking model, the planning model, it can actually go through and do multi-steps. So it's now going to, wherein before it would probably only be able to do 4 to 5 different files at a time, it's now going to be able to probably do like 10 different files at a time. Larger context window, more thinking tokens, and it's running now. It's actually building my app as we speak. And the cool thing about Bolt is that you don't need a integrated developer environment on your machine. You can do this completely from the browser. So you don't even need to install any libraries. You don't need to install any frameworks. You can run this completely from the cloud and deploy it from the cloud as well, just from your browser. And it's it's building it out, as you can see. It's literally writing all of the code. All right, and this is going to take a second. It has this preview tool. It's not yet ready to do the preview, but as you can see, it's building all of the required files. It's adding styling to it, a theme, mock data, and so forth. So essentially what you're seeing is that this is sort of the agentic workflow. It created an overall plan using my initial prompt. It converted that into a plan of action. It then is now taking all of these different steps: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's going to keep 14. It's just going step by step by step and building this app for me, this first version of the app. Now, if this was a developer doing this completely unassisted without the help of AI, I mean, this is probably at least a full day, if not multiple days worth of work. We're doing this in a matter of seconds or minutes, which is really incredible. So in some ways, you can do 10 times, 100 times more output. So what does that mean for the cost of software? Well, the cost of software in some cases is being reduced by 10 times or 100 times if this is now possible. And then if we increase the number of software developers in the world, then the supply of potential software developers has increased. And anyone now can be a software developer. And I think this is such a massive opportunity for anyone, really. It doesn't matter which industry you work in. I believe that as more and more of our work is becoming software defined, meaning like we're using a software tool, we work through a software tool, most of our work is done, keying in information or updating certain things. I think that, the next step is to go beyond being a spreadsheet, someone who spends lots of their times in spreadsheets, to now producing software. And this is no longer going to be only the domain of the IT department. All the departments, finance, HR, marketing, products, sales, all of the different departments in a large organization will now, I believe, is now able to be contributors in the form of software. And I think the ultimate output in many cases for work can be encapsulated in the software that you produced as an artifact, right? An artifact is an object that you have created and it can be shared and so forth. So there's a tangible output. And I think increasingly it will be in the form of software. So if there's a feature request or something you'd like the software to do, you can just request that. All right, now this is pretty common. What's going to happen is there'll probably be a bug or a problem in the beginning, right? There will be an issue, and if you know how to debug that, you'll be able to figure that out. But if you don't know, you can just ask Bolt to try to fix that for you. There's a few things you can do. First is you can discuss the problem. So before going off and trying to fix it, you can have a conversation. Bolt won't edit any of the files. It will reflect and explain to you what is the problem that was detected. Then you can attempt to fix it. If you want, you can directly fix the code yourself. You can edit the code if you know how. But this is a simple one. I think it's saying that in the mock data, you can go to the Bolt here, and it will show you that there's a duplicate declaration of app. So we're going to want to go to this mock data, and on line 25, data, mock data, duplicate of app. Let's look for it. No. All right, and then the other thing you can do is you can just ask it to fix it for you. If you don't want to fix it by yourself, no worries. Bolt can fix it for you. So now it's going to try. Because you have to think, when it's on its when it's doing when it's running, basically, right? When it's figured out what it wants to do and it's now moving towards that, it's on that path, and it's going to pursue that output, that goal. And so that's going to use as much of its context, as much of its available consciousness or awareness or focus as possible to do that task. Once it's finished, you can then refresh your context window. You can then refocus, and you can then fill up that context window with ability to fix the bug. Okay, that's pretty cool. Wow. So here it is. Single shot with one fix, it created a full AI app store. It has a footer section, that's the bottom section here. It has a top navigation bar here. It has a hero section. That's typically what this section is called, is the hero section. It is well, it looks like I can't actually scroll through that. So there's a small bug there. I can filter based on category. It created a bunch of mock apps. And then if I click learn more, it actually gives me the full modal, and it even fills in this sort of placeholder or skeleton cards. Then you can click open in sandbox, and then that would open it up. So that's really, really awesome. Pretty cool, right? That was really fast. Just in a matter of minutes. I mean, this is a whole, I mean, this in the previous generation would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars if you were to contract someone to actually build this for you, and the builder would have spent days, if not weeks, designing it and finding all the finding all the stock photos and testing it to make sure that it's responsive. You see here, this is the responsive view. Responsive means that I can change the browser and the layout should adapt. Change the browser specs, right? So here's iPhone 16, Pixel. So it's ready for both desktop and mobile. That's really awesome. Now we'll go into and it even supports multiple themes, right? We have light mode, dark mode. Okay, let's add let's tell it that we need a few more fixes in here. Now, there's a setting here called diffs and dynamic reasoning. So if you go, you can only choose one at a time because they use different models. I like to use dynamic reasoning in the beginning because that gives it its full thinking chain of thought. It can do many turns, many files, it can edit and so forth. But it uses more tokens. It uses more thinking, it uses more tokens. What diffs does is it tries to preserve what was already there and just make smaller edits just to specific areas. Whereas if you were to use dynamic reasoning, it might try to essentially rewrite the whole page with the fix applied. Whereas if you use the diffs, it will try to only edit the code where it needs to be edited. If you do this, you will have to reload because it needs to use the different model. But I'm willing to do that because I want to save some of my tokens, and I don't want it to have to go through lots and lots of thinking and planning. If I just want to make some small cosmetic changes. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to explain that the featured section, we cannot scroll through this carousel thing here. So I mean, first all we'll try to do is figure out what we call that component. I think it's the header. Home, new releases, top rated. No, not the, is it the header? UI, here it is. App carousel. Okay, so the app carousel. I can target this file so that it only fixes this file if I really want to limit all of its attention and focus to just that section, or I can just let it figure it out by itself. So I'll say there's a bug with the app carousel. where it doesn't scroll or auto scroll. It doesn't scroll manually, nor does it auto scroll. Okay. It turns out that a significant portion of time when you're building apps is actually in debugging mode. It may in fact be the majority of time, because it's like essentially what debugging is, quality assurance, is you're testing it and you're trying to look for either things that could improve the product experience, the user experience of the product, or there could be actual bugs where it's not functioning correctly, or there could be things like security or compliance that need to be addressed. So that all falls under the domain of quality assurance, testing, bug fixing, and those sorts of things. Okay, so it looks like it's now auto scrolling, but I still can't click the arrows. The right and left arrows are not clickable and do not seem to function. Please fix this. Okay, and so again, the model is going to try to reason through what I mean by that, and it's able to translate natural language like the right and left arrows not clickable, do not seem to function. It's able to translate that into computer language code, and now I can actually click through that. Cool. Now it's picking random stock photos, I think, from a stock photo provider. What you would eventually want to do is you'd want to generate your own images or take screenshots of your actual app and then replace those images. And you could easily do that by just telling Bolt what the image URL that you want it to point to, or you could upload those images into your data here. But I think this is already really, really cool. We've got another bug. Oh, no, we don't. It was just that we were all the way to the left. We can't go any further to the left. Now we move to the right, and we can scroll through these trending. The view wall is not necessarily a bug. That's more like a placeholder. If we wanted that to work, we would actually need it to build that out. So in some cases, things are just placeholders, just to give you a sense of what is the next thing to build. But it still satisfies the initial requirements. So that's really, really, really cool. Now let's try something. Let's take this to the next step, right? We've got this Wealth Assist, Code Copilot, Vital AI, Wanderlust AI, right? Plan your perfect trip with AI. Get personal AI health coach, AI-powered financial advice, your AI pair programmer, right? All of these different tasks and different features that each of these AI apps could do. And then if you're a user and you wanted to find what are the new releases, the new categories, the trending apps and so forth, you could go to the AI App Store and you could find all the different agents and other apps. So I think that's pretty cool. And what I'd like to do is eventually I would replace all of these mockups with my actual apps, right? I have Shop Birdie, I have Boltfolio, I have the Room Inspector, I have a bunch of different mini games that I built. I have the Logistics Planner, I have all of these, I have probably dozens of apps. I have the Strategy Planner, I have the Wealth Planner, I have all these different apps, right? So I would eventually probably have this AI App Store on my own company website and let you try all of my apps, right? In an easy to browse way. But overall, I think that this is let's add a game. Why not? Let's add a mini game. I'm gonna swap over back to this is probably be a bigger task. Instead of using just the difference, the minor edits, the small edits, I'm gonna go ahead and say let's bring back the deep thinking mode. And again, it's gonna start up here. It's running as a preview in this browser, and I'm gonna say that let's add a featured app. This app is a game. It will be a It will be what's a simple game? A snake game. Make it fully functional. Make it playable. Make it appear as one of the AI apps, one of the apps in our app store. When we click this app in the app store, it should allow the user to experience that playable game. Now, I can give it that prompt exactly as I've written it, or again, I can try to enhance the prompt. And this will be where the system adds in more technical details, right? It's going to say you're going to use these buttons to control it, use this and that, and we're going to go ahead and accept that enhanced prompt, and we're going to see if it can create a game in a minute. I think this is just absolutely incredible, and it goes back to kind of like my initial vision of having this app generator script, which could build any app, any game using these orchestrated systems and using website crawling. You know, if I wanted to turn my website into a game, or any website into a game, or all websites on the internet into a full like 3D world, metaverse, I thought that was a big idea. I didn't get a chance to actually make that happen, but I'm really happy that other people take that idea and really run with it. Okay, cool. Let's see how this does. Still going? I thought it'd be, I mean, monetary aside, right? I thought it'd just be fun to have, something that I would like to experience. And well, now it's absolutely possible. It's completely doable now, a couple years later, right? So sometimes we're just a little bit early, not wrong, just early, or we just planted the seed for the idea, and then other people help water it, help nurture that, and then create something really fruitful, really amazing. All right, so it looks like the game is built. It's now creating the listing page, the listing screen for that, and it's integrating it into the rest of the application. This is really cool. At the end of this, I'm actually going to deploy this, and then I'll share the URL, and anyone can actually jump into this and start using it. But yeah, let it do its work. It's typing way faster than I can. So just that alone, just the speed of typing the AI can do is already much faster, which gives you the ability to focus on iterating and refining rather than trying to focus on, you know, the indentation and the syntax and the formatting and what are the functions called, and even just getting stuck on what should I name this button, you know, like what color should this be. Sometimes those, I mean, it's not that they're not important, it's just that like they're not the most important thing sometimes, right? It's like, let's just have the thing first and then we'll make it perfect after. But like if we can barely make any progress because we're just spending way too much time trying to perfect the shadows and the gradients and the curve of the corners, it's fun, but you can end up getting lost in all those details, and then you miss the forest for the trees. All right. It's updating it, the mock data. This thing is really working. And that's what I love about these, the whole Gen AI thing. It's like, I kind of like think one of like the most productive things that I can be doing is to just be like, as much as I can, generating tokens. Like, to me, that's just a proxy for doing work, you know, getting to some breakthrough idea, realizing something. So I just like to make sure that as much as I can, I'm using my time to be generating tokens and giving myself as much opportunity as possible, right? In some ways, you can kind of think of it as like sifting for gold, right? You have this stream of information and you're trying to pull out those golden nuggets, right? Those really valuable bits. And you're trying to put those together, and then eventually you can have something substantial. And then the more that you use these tools, the better you get at it, and you can quickly get something really refined. Oh, it's even adding sound effects. It sounds like I have to actually add my own MP3s for those sound effects to actually work. But it's exciting, right? Like, now there's a game. All right, thanks for those screenshots, whatever this is. Play now. There it is. Start tutorial. Wow, this is cool. Let's make it full screen. All right. Wow, it's working, guys. I'm actually using the arrow buttons. The snake is moving around, eating the thing, and it's growing as it eats. And hopefully it doesn't eat its own tail or run into the wall. Oh wow, this that's pretty cool. Wow, so the high score thing is that's where my previous company, Playbasis, really shined. Is that we had all the back end that you needed for all this player score management and multiplayer and leaderboards and achievements and levels and everything else that you needed. But wow, that's just super exciting. Okay, that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope that inspires you to try to make your own apps, games, whatever they are, and be creative and use these tools because they're super powerful. Oh yeah, let me deploy this. So we click here, deploy, and it's going to publish this on the internet for me, right? It's going to publish it into a URL that I can share and people can click and use, and anyone can access this whole application and play the game through this process. And there it is. It just creates a random name, Wondrous Souffle 5e59dc.netlify.app, and there it is, folks. An AI app store with a playable game, and it all came from that prompt, and it created everything, and it published it and hosted it and set everything up, and I just think that's just amazing. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.